Welcome to Relationship Mastery, a podcast for those who want to learn how to master the art of creating happy, healthy, and loving relationships. Please join me, Adey-Jones, and my co-host, Barry Selby, each Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific for a lively and informative conversation on everything to do with relationships. Hello, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us for another week. Hi, Barry.
Hi, Dale. Back for more fun and games.
Yes, absolutely. So I was just saying, I thought this would be an interesting topic, carrying on from what we talked about last week about, glass half full, half empty, pessimism versus optimism. But one of the things that I've noticed has greatly improved my life and my relationships is when I focus on what I'm grateful for and what I appreciate, not just in my life, but what I appreciate and grateful for within the people in my life, but also about myself.
Mm-hmm.
We can have a lot of this negative talk in our minds that all the things we haven't done, but if we take a moment and we actually focus on some of the things that we have achieved and that we have done and we're grateful for it, or traits that we have, then it really, it's an incredible shift immediately in how we feel. It not only has a very, very strong effect on our psychology, on our mental health, but also on our physical health. We don't realize that, but it really does it builds our immune systems, it lessens anxiety. The list goes on and on and on. And it's so funny. I was thinking about, gratitude journals the other day, and I was thinking, Oprah Winfrey did not create the gratitude journal. This is something that has been around for millenniums. All different sort of religious practices. There's always been this focus on. My mum used to say, "Count your blessings." It's the same thing,
Right?
Count your blessings or a gratitude journal. It's the same thing. It's like what we focus on is what we feel, and it's also what perpetuates more of that same feeling of optimism, happiness, less anxiety. So that's what I thought. What are your views on gratitude?
Well, frankly, I would say that in a way, because we talked last week about the glass being half empty, half full. I believe gratitude fills the glass up, frankly, because that's what its benefit is. Because I'm using it intentionally, playing for the metaphor, but the truth is, as you said, it does build our immune system. Not like you do it because of that reason, but the side effects of gratitude is it shifts your state. And we said last week about how your thoughts impact your emotions. So if you start saying internally things you're grateful for, and yes, especially about yourself, there's a shift that happens emotionally. If you keep saying thank you for things that are working for you, even if they're not working, frankly, and I'll get to that in a moment, your internal self-esteem increases, your internal self-confidence, your internal self-love increases because you're reflecting back to yourself the value or the worthiness that you already are, but it changes your state. And the thing about gratitude is, and this is one thing we'll talk about more in conversation about, if you can actually get to be grateful when things are not working out the way you want, that's the masterclass. But it's such a great place to be when you get there. So we'll talk about that in a moment.
Yeah, I love both of what you just said. I love that. Gratitude does fill up the rest of the glass, 100%. I love that. And also what you said about and I talked about this last week when I was talking about, when I'd done my living vision about staying married and having grandchildren. Well, hopefully I still have grandchildren, but that we're all together as an intact family. And the hurt and disappointment I experienced when I realized that my marriage was not salvageable and it was going to end. Like I said, quite quickly I was able to see the gifts in that experience, and as painful as they were, but the first gift I saw was my own resilience.
Yeah.
And I was so grateful for that. I was like, oh my God, I've survived and it was a very traumatic ending of a marriage. It was not what I had thought it was. So it's so much was revealed that was pretty devastating to me. But as I said, very quickly, I saw my strength, I saw my resilience, and I knew that I would be okay and that my children would be okay. And so, yes, it absolutely helped me navigate those very tough times.
Yeah,
But I
I
hadn't
mean,
thought about it at the time, but you're right.
it does. And actually, on the same note, the last relationship I was in, yes, it was quite a while ago. The breakup, I said this before when we talked about this, about how, she read me the riot act. She was upset with me and she'd do all this stuff. And I said, if I ever meet again, I'll be thanking her, because if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be doing the work I'm doing now. Two, would not change my life the way it's working. And three, the book I wrote came out of everything I'd learned. And part of
Yeah,
it was because of her. So the reality is that if we can shift that perspective from the upset we're in the middle of to a perspective of looking back from gratitude, that's again masterclass, but it's a transformational experience. But also, the closer that happens to when the event happens, the less pain you'll be in.
yeah, exactly. Like I said, and you honor the pain, but it's the salve. I would say gratitude is the salve. It's what heals the pain. It's not that
Yeah.
you're doing spiritual bypass. You acknowledge what you're feeling. You're acknowledging the impact of the situation you find yourself in, and the way that your thinking is magnifying what you're going through. But when you look to that place of everything is for me, not against me, and what is the gift in this,
Yeah.
it that's the solve right there. Even if you don't get the message of this is what you're getting out of it, doesn't matter. The fact that you are looking in an optimistic way at a situation, knowing there is a gift to be revealed, knowing something good is going to come out of this,
Oh yeah.
that's what helps you get through those moments.
Absolutely. I remember when I was younger, in my one of my previous careers, 'cause I had quite a few, but I remember in one particular period, oftentimes what happened, I was getting the second one like the first thing I went for wouldn't work out. The
Mm,
second one, but every time that happened for like four different instances in terms of jobs, the second thing I got turned out to be better than the first one I thought I wanted.
yeah,
And so there was such a sense of almost like if I didn't get the first thing I wanted, I almost go, great, the second one's going to be better, because I got trained that way. Because
mm,
there's an experience I had where I thought the first thing I wanted, because it was all glitz and glamour, it looked really great. But the second one was actually deeper and more powerful. And frankly, like one case, the first job would have got fired from the first week because the company went down and they lost their income. The second one was more stable. So in little things like that has shifted my perspective. So when something doesn't work out when it first comes up in my life, the part of me is almost like excited for what comes next.
yeah.
That's gratitude based.
Yeah, it is, and it's faith based, and I don't use
Yeah.
that word, but it really is, because what you're describing is that the first one is the sort of what you imagine for yourself as being the best for you, because of
Right.
course we're all in charge of our life, we, but what the second thing is usually what the universe is like. Well, actually, Barry, you might think this is the best thing for you, but hey, come and look over here. Look what we've got for you.
Yeah.
It is. It's wonderful. It's wonderful that you can let go of the sort of the ego want of what you first think is what is good for you, and then be embracing what the universe thinks is good for you. So
Yeah.
I wanted to talk a little bit about the practice of gratitude, and there's practices that people do that are sort of more for the internal journey, but I also wanted to talk about getting in the habit and the practice of articulating your gratitude to the people in your life, and your partner in particular,
Yeah.
because it can be so easy to just take the very small things in life for granted. And we've talked before about what I call the well of goodwill, that or the bank account of goodwill, and there's nothing better that puts those deposits into that bank account of goodwill than expressing gratitude and appreciation for your partner, for what they bring into your life, or your friends or your children or your parents or whoever it is that you
Yeah.
want to. It's so, everybody wants to be seen and heard and understood and apprecited. It's just it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't mean that your ego is dependent on it and that you constantly need this outside validation. But if we're honest, we all appreciate when we've been acknowledged, seen, and appreciated and heard. So when
Right.
we give that to each other, it really builds such a beautiful, strong bond with the other person.
That's the thing that I love, because it does, in some ways, it takes the ego off of it. Because to
Mm,
be grateful, oftentimes, is grateful to something greater than ourselves. And when we get to that position of just being grateful to spirit, to some partner, to somebody else, or grateful to that part of ourselves that knows better than we do, our
mhm,
ego tends to be, okay, I don't try. I'm not running things now. It's like there's a certain um, undoing of that egotistic sort of position we get ourselves into. So there's such a grace that comes from that, and that's another thing I play with in my life, which is grace. But the other thing I want to speak to is the thankfulness, the gratitude is something that doesn't require a result to be thankful for. Because you said earlier about that, about being in faith. There's this possibility where something's happening is you can ask yourself, like, what can I be grateful for right now? In the midst of whatever's going on, or even saying, I know this is going to complete at some point. What will I be grateful for then? So your mind is already looking for things that will match gratitude.
mhm.
It's a great place
Yeah.
to be. So if you're in an argument with your partner, if you're going through dating challenges, if you're going through even traumas and issues with your partner, maybe it's health issues. Can you look for seeds of gratitude along the way?
Mhm. Yeah. I love that. And also, in like you were just saying, about even if there's conflict in the relationship, even if you're having a moment of conflict or misunderstanding, or it looks like the relationship's in trouble and things like that, usually when that storm occurs, there is always that calm that follows. There is that clearing of the air. There is that coming back together with a clean slate almost. And just even know it in the midst of a fight. I know for me that if and I'm very, very rarely fight with Hootie, but if we do have, any sort of raised emotions or anything like that,
Mhm.
I'm not afraid of it at all, because I know again that the aftermath is clarity, a deeper understanding, a deeper appreciation for each other, a deeper seeing the other person at a deeper level, really sort of, and especially with Hootie, because he's a bit of a cancer, he can be a bit of a crab, he can sort of go in his shell, but
Right.
fine. Yay, great. I know what's inside that shell with you. I know what you're sort of, instead of just carrying in a shell, you've come out and you've shared with me what's going on when you're inside that shell, which is a
Yeah.
beautiful gift again to get.
It,
The
it,
other, oh, sorry, go on.
well, so I love that, and I wish I'd. I mean, 2020 hindsight. This is a lesson I didn't learn from many relationships when I was younger. So hearing you say this, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, I know, because you were saying that your parents tended not to sort of have express their deep emotions. Well, unfortunately,
Indeed.
I'm
Indeed.
a I'm a Celt, so we can be a little hot blooded.
Right.
My first marriage did not work out with an Italian and a Celt. It was a little fiery. So,
Hmm.
but um, but I wanted to also mention, besides, like, sort of, because we've obviously heard about people keeping a gratitude journal, which is a great way. But you don't have to do the gratitude journal, but it is one great way. I think they recommend at least three things to be grateful for each day in your life, and to get into that habit. But what I wanted to say is, there are other things that you can do as well. And one of mine is, I love it when because I'm not always in that awareness, that consciousness, but when I am reminded visually, I always get such a sort of lift inside me, and that is, I have my circle ring on today. You'll see it, but that is a silver ring a friend gave to me, a dear, dear friend gave to me when I actually graduated from USM. She bought me
Nice.
this eternity circle here, and but what I do is because I walk every day. My husky Malamute mix likes a lot of walks, so I do almost like a walking meditation. If I'm not listening to a book on tape, I'm doing a walking meditation, and I look for circles in that, and I'll see them everywhere. I mean, whether it's a circle that it's a pothole, or it's a circle of a wheel that I'm passing, or it's the circle of a zero in an address, or it's even the circle on a branch where a limb may have been cut off. I mean, there's so many visual reminders that are circles. And I decided years ago that seeing a circle was a reminder to be in gratitude.
Oh,
And
no.
I forget because I'm lost in my book.
Hmm.
I would say almost daily, I see a circle when I'm out in my walks, or hundreds if I'm doing a walking meditation.
Yeah.
And I don't just say, I mean, again, it's like, oh, yes, there's so much to be grateful for. But I actually think about what it is I'm grateful for and why I'm grateful for it. It seems to cement it more than just like, oh, yeah, I'm so grateful for my children. I'm so grateful for Hootie. I'm so grateful for my house. I'm so grateful for whatever. It really, if you slow it down and take the time, not that, as you said earlier, it's not that you always have to have a reason why you're grateful. I mean, one of mine is I'm grateful for my courage.
Hmm.
And so I'll start the sentence off with, I am grateful for my courage because it allows me to experience more of what life has to offer than when I'm living in fear.
Yeah.
So I actually have, it really cements why I'm grateful for that. So do you have any practices you would like to share?
I used to have a gratitude journal, and in fact, I had for a couple of years. I haven't done it for this year though. I should find it somewhere. Somewhere in my closet. I have a gratitude jar that I got. I got like those big candy jars you get, like you get it from like big, big five sort of thing. It's basically this big jar that's like the old glass things where you put all the candy in. And except I put a great load of gratitude, and then every day at the end of the day, I'll write down three things, different pieces of paper, and I get like these like 2.5 inch square pieces of paper, like post-its, but without the glue.
Yeah.
And so I found those and I fold them and put it in the jar. So at the end of the year, I had this jar crammed full of gratitudes. And
Ooh, I like that.
that was the thing, because for me, I'm not much of a physical writer. I don't write with a pen very much, but writing gratitude in a piece of paper was just easy to do, and it worked. And the other thing, and this is something I've not done this for a while, but another reminder for anybody out there thinking how they do it, is to with a whiteboard pen or a lipstick on the mirror in your bathroom, just write across the top, what am I grateful for? So every time
Mm,
you look in the mirror, it'll trigger in your mind to go, oh, what am I grateful for? And you can ask yourself. And same thing too. Put a post-it on your dashboard of your car or on the steering wheel. You can put reminders, nudges, inquiries, questions for yourself wherever you go. If it's on, if it's maybe a pop-up message on your phone that comes up every hour, if you put it in your alarms, or say put it on the mirror somewhere. Those are things I've done different times, and having nudges, for want of a better word, or just these things that give you a thought to go, what am I grateful for? A ways to do that. And there's a debate about whether you should write gratitude journal at the beginning of the day or the end of the day. Personally, for me, I do it at the end of the day because I'm more present of what happened that day. Although you can, if you want to, write things you're grateful for at the beginning of the day when you haven't even done it yet. So you're
mm,
almost setting the day for success.
yeah,
But if you're willing, if you haven't done this before, I recommend doing either one and see which one works for you best. Because there's no right or wrong way of doing it, except to not do it.
exactly. And if you're really, really going to embrace this, you can actually do it morning and night.
Exactly.
Shows there are no rules. We did that one a couple of weeks ago. That's so great. There's a really good tangible things to remind us. And I remember doing a positive psychology course, and they had us count how many negative thoughts we were having a day versus positive thoughts.
Hmm.
And that experience actually depressed me because because it schooled you on how, or rather, I think you start. I can't remember now. It was a while back, but I remember thinking this is not working for me. You had a certain amount of points to start your day off, and every time you had a negative thought, subtracted an amount from that. Say you start off with 100 points, and every negative thought you have, you take 5 points off, and then you rated yourself. Oh, so you had let me do my math here, eight negative thoughts, then you ended with like 60 points or something. And it was, oh, you only got 60 out of 100, and we're aiming for 100. And I kept thinking, this is awful. Why is it making me so? It's making me anxious.
Yeah.
Exactly. It was sort of punitive. I was losing points if I just was a normal human being and had a negative thought. So, what we want to emphasize here, it's not about perfection again. It's not about never being ungrateful. It's not about not allowing yourself to be depressed or sad about anything that you might be going through. Honor your feelings. Let
Hmm.
them go through you. They're never permanent. They're never going to stay. They're just visiting. If you keep the door open, it will come in one door and leave out the back door. So don't wrestle with it, don't judge it, don't try and deny it and keep it from coming in. Just let it move through you. But with the gratitude, it's just it's more about, if you remember, oh, this is something that is, I feel immediately the benefits of,
Right.
and this is how I want to sort of um, what's the word I'm looking for? A form of self care. So it's not about judgment. Oh, I'm more ungrateful than grateful. It's not about any of that. It's just knowing that there is something, as I say, that's like a salve. It
Mhm.
just helps the pain. It helps whatever struggles you're going through, and it builds intimacy and connection with other people.
Absolutely. In fact, one thing I do, which will help us with this, is I set up alarms through the day that basically go off every couple of hours. They're actually like I use them to touch in to go, where am I right now? As that's my reminder message. But I
Mm-hmm.
can also do gratitude, which I haven't done yet. But I'm saying to myself, I will do this now. Is when that alarm goes off, it's like just stop for a second and go, what am I grateful for right now? And I mean, I want to make sure I express a lot of ideas for what you can do, what methods you can use, because it's easy to say, well, I'll be grateful. It's like, well, yeah, but how are you going to remind yourself? How are you going to be with presence of that? Because as you said, it's something that the benefits are immediate
Mm-hmm.
if we remember to do it.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
so the gratitude thing, my gratitude journals are great, especially if you keep the journal somewhere where you'll see it, like at the bedside table or on your desk or wherever it's going to be, you'll see it. Set yourself up for success, because people will say, "Well, I don't get around to it, I never do it." It's like, well, are you putting the effort to set yourself up so you can actually have success in this area? Because gratitude is absolutely, as you said, an immediately beneficial salve to your own condition, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. And sometimes gratitude can be the most basic things, like, you know what, I'm breathing today. I can see sunshine today. I had something to eat today. It doesn't have to be like I had the best meal in the world. Maybe it was, but you don't have to be that way. It's just, what are those things that give you gratitude? And it's not comparative with anybody else. So the key thing is, what are you grateful for that you experienced in your life in that moment? And if it is simply, you know, I drank water today, or I went for a walk today, it's like, you don't have to have, I closed a deal, or I got a new relationship. Those are great things to be grateful for too, but they're not things you want to keep focusing on as the only things to be grateful for.
Yeah.
You want to
Yeah.
expand yourself.
Yeah, that's why I was about to say, sort of, when I was saying about the circle, and you just mentioned it right then. But it's almost like when I'm cooking. Mostly, I use bowls. They're round, they're circular. When I
The glass, right?
it's out of a glass that has a circle at the top. So there are these constant. And again, it simply can be. Here's my glass of water. I'm going to have a sip. Thank goodness. Um, it's the same thing. Is that circle? It reminds me. Oh my God! I'm so grateful that I live in a country where I get clean water, and I
Hmm.
can drink water when I'm thirsty. And you think about the people in the world that don't even have that, or
Right.
just even stepping outside. And again, coming from the UK, we being grateful that we have blue skies in California most of the time.
Yep. One of the reasons we moved here.
Exactly. So just things like that. It's just things that uplift our spirits, and again, just to remember that it's not just mental, it's physical too.
Yeah.
When we have less stress and anxiety in our lives, we sleep better, our immune systems are stronger, we have less illness. Um, and again, when we're focusing on the good things, and again, when I say good things, it's not just the things that bring us joy, because sometimes the really painful experiences we have are really
Hmm.
good for us. They're good for our emotional and spiritual growth. So
Right.
even being grateful for those will help our immune systems, help our physical health. We won't be focusing on some my age here, my aches and pains that are that are beginning to develop. And again, just the I remember when I had my accident and I was in a wheelchair for a few months, and I had tickets to a Lady Gaga concert, and I was not going to not go, even though I was in a wheelchair. And it was really, honestly, quite terrifying for me to be in a crowd of 50,000 people at Dodger Stadium in a wheelchair, where people are pushing past you. And I was with Hootie, my partner, and but having to go to the loo, he couldn't take me into the women's loo. I had to go on my own, and there were so many experiences that. And I would think to myself, gosh, what have I put myself in this situation for? Because I'd purchased the tickets months before, we had to change them so I could go in a wheelchair. And we get into the place, and we get to the place where our tickets are for, and there's somebody sitting next to me that's in this, you know, incredible wheelchair that you can tell that was her life. It was not, she was not in a temporary wheelchair.
Right.
It was her life. And it was such a moment, a slap in the face for me, that bucket of cold water that woke me up to say, oh my God, how lucky you are that this is just for a short period of time. This
Yeah.
person has had to adapt to this for all their life, or you could just tell that this was a permanent situation. And again, it took me from being afraid and what have I done, why am I, to being, oh my God, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful, number one, that I get to experience and have more compassion in my life, because I know what it feels like to be in a wheelchair and the vulnerability that brings up.
Mm.
But also that this is not a permanent condition, and that I had the courage to come anyway. And it just is the gift that keeps on giving. I mean, the more that you look to be grateful, it's just incredible.
Yeah, sometimes it is a requirement. It is a case where basically you look at somebody else and you just go there, but by the grace of God, go I. Where it gives you that place of, okay, I'm grateful to be myself. Because sometimes it does take that comparison to get that thing.
Yeah.
But I want to offer a homework assignment to everybody who's either watching or listening to this podcast. Is one, as we said at the beginning or early on, can you write down 3 things you're grateful for? At the beginning of the day, end of the day, both, wherever you want to do it. At least write down 3 things you're grateful for. And because we're talking about relationships, if you are in a relationship, can you write down 3 things you're grateful for your partner about?
Mm-hmm.
Ideally, they're different every time, but just 3 things per day that you're grateful for your partner for. And it might be simple, it might be complex, it could be anything. It could even be the challenges they give you. But just write down 3 things you're grateful for, because you might discover your relationship is a lot better than you think it is.
Exactly. It really is. And the simple things, even like when they empty the dishwasher or they put the trash out.
Yep.
And not just to be aware of it, but to share it, like we said.
Mm,
Say,
yeah.
I really love that you think about these things, or that you would do that on your own accord without me having to ask you, or just so many little things. If we look for it, you find what you're looking for. If you
Right.
look for things to be grateful for in your relationship, you will find them for sure. Some
Absolutely.
people might say, no, no, there's nothing there. Well, I challenge you to start small, and it will build. It will definitely
So
build.
here's one thing as well. If you're hearing this conversation or you're watching this conversation, that means you've got some device you can do that with. Be grateful for the device.
Yes, grateful for the internet, for social media. Oof, oof, social media. I'm
The-
having that's
the-
work
the-
for me.
well, these tools are neutral. Is how we use them that makes them good or bad. So,
Yeah.
choice.
Oh, on how other people use them, make them good or bad.
You can snooze those people. I
I was
do.
thinking about my being hacked and not
Ah,
getting social media back. But again, it gave me a window to step back and go, what is the universe trying to tell me here? How do I deal with this? And quite honestly, I had an awful lot on my plate that needed to be taken care of. So having putting a little bit of a slowdown on my using the social media, as far as I've never used it socially, but just as far as business, it slowed things down enough for me to be able to take care of the other stuff that was really urgent that I needed to take care of. So
there you go.
grateful for that. I'm
Absolutely.
grateful for you, Barry. Thank you very, very much for meeting me here each week and having these wonderful conversations. So,
Pleasure. I'm grateful to you too for having even been the invitation in the first place, because you did start this. I'm grateful for that.
oh, well, I couldn't have done it without you. That's for sure. Sitting alone trying to have a conversation with yourself is a little boring.
Yeah, been there, done that. No fun.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Barry. And we will see you next week.
Take care of yourselves. We'll see you soon.
Bye bye.
Bye. We trust you enjoyed this episode and invite you to share this with your friends and loved ones. In fact, please subscribe to our Relationship Mastery podcast. That way you'll get each new episode fresh and shiny as soon as it is released. We'd love to hear from you as well. So go ahead and enter your questions and comments at relationshipmastery.show. Take good care. We will connect with you in our next episode of Relationship Mastery.